Chapter 521, Where Dreams Start. Chen Guo didn't even want to eat after she heard what Yi Shu had said. She quickly finished her dinner and went about learning the requirements for the qualification tournament. On the official website of the Glory Alliance, Chen Guo soon found a complete introduction and advertisements for the qualification tournament. As soon as she opened the site, she saw the slogan for the qualification tournament, the place where dreams begin. Cheesy, Chen Guo thought to herself and hastily went digging for information. As she learned more and more, she found that it was exactly as Yi Shu had described to her. The only difference was that the official publication had a more of an advertisement tone to it. It said that every participating team had a chance to fulfill their dreams. Teams with outstanding performances were said to be living their dreams. The pro teams that re-entered the alliance were said to have their dreams saved. But the most appealing ones were the players who were discovered through the qualification tournament and were selected by professional teams. For these people, the qualification tournament was truly what the slogan had promised, a place where dreams began. After Chen Guo read through everything, she became so excited and so eager that she wished that the qualification tournament would start tomorrow. They would first have a chance to fulfill their dreams and then live their dreams. Finally, the qualification tournament would save someone's dream, while the others would begin their dreams. How do we sign up? Chen Guo couldn't wait to find out. Then she found out that signing up was extremely simple. The sign-up page would open at the end of the season. All she needed to do was follow the instructions provided by the website. Why weren't the pro games over yet? Chen Guo immediately became anxious. She went to check the regular season's timetable. There were 8 games left in the regular season, which meant that there were still about 2 more months until the end of the season. Don't be so hasty. The later the competition, the better it will be for us. Yi Shu was behind Chen Guo for a while. He saw she was checking this and that, and guessed her thoughts. True. We still need a lot of preparations. At least, you guys have to be max level first, Chen Guo said. Obviously. The other equipment will come along later on in the process, Yi Shu said. Right now, you and Wei Chen are the only ones with silver weapons, so we are far behind on equipment. What if we meet God-level character fully armed with silver equipment? Chen Guo said. Yi Shu's Lord Grimm had already fought against top players like Wang Jiaxi, Han Wenqing, and Huang Shaoxin in the game, but he hadn't met any God-level character yet. The time when he had fought against Troubling Rain was in the fixed field. Why were God-level characters worshipped? There were 3 main reasons. First, the player had excellent skills that gained them fame through battle. Secondly, their skill points were high. The higher the skill points, the better the skill levels. It would enhance both attack damage and crowd control effects. The third was equipment. Equipment directly enhanced the character's stats. If characters like One Autumn Leaf, Troubling Rain, Valkyria, and Desert Dust were stripped of their equipment, they would be no different from any other max-level character in the game. Yi Shu was trying to create a new team. From a player's aspect, at least, they would have to have a top player like Yi Shu. All the others could improve their level through practicing, but from the equipment aspect, they were far behind. Even though Yi Shu and Wei Chen character had silver weapons, they couldn't compare to a character fully armed with silver equipment. The gap between 2 full set of equipment was obviously not the same with the differences between 2 pieces of equipment. As for skill points, that was something one cannot ask for. If one was extremely out of luck, one might still only have 4,000 points after playing for 10 years. There was nothing one could do about it, so Chen Guo did not even mention it. Yes, equipment is a huge problem. As you can see, there is a lot that we need to do this year. Winning the qualification tournament is only a small part of it, Yi Shu said. We can work it out, Chen Guo said to Yi Shu. She was also saying it to herself. We have to, Yi Shu said. He returned to his seat and started working immediately. The second day, Chen Guo started rearranging the work schedule in the internet cafe to free Tang Ru from the front desk. She then posted an advertisement for employment and headed back to the reserved room. Her main task was still leveling with Yi Shu. She wished she could be a pro player, but her age wouldn't allow her to. She was too late to be trained. She didn't possess Wei Chen's talent, nor his experience. Experience needed time to accumulate, that was for sure, but it didn't necessarily mean that with the accumulation of time one could definitely gain experience. The forming of experience needed studying, thinking, and processing. One had to actively work their brain to accumulate experience. That was the exact reason why many old gamers might be playing longer than new pro players, but were less experienced than pro players. Was it because pro players went through more battles? Of course not. The attitude was key. If the gamers played for fun, they were passively accumulating experience. What about professional players? They actively accumulated experiences, one battle, one game, one recording, they were constantly reflecting on these things. Therefore, even though Chen Guo had played Glory for many years, and had a lot of experience, the experience was divided into levels as well, and her experience level was honestly quite low. She had to help everyone else in her own way under her circumstances. Yi Shu was leveling in the game. Outside the game, he received a QQ message from Mo Chang. "I'm here, what's up?" Yi Shu replied to Mo Chang. "I have two bad news, which one would you like to hear first?" Mo Chang asked. "Just tell me." "All your money is spent, but I don't have everything you want," Mo Chang said. "What's missing?" "Aquamarine. It's not because there isn't enough money. I've asked everywhere, and there is no stock of it anywhere. If there were, I would definitely have bought it for you," Mo Chang said. "Well, thanks. It looks like I'll have to figure that one out on my own," Yi Shu said. "I'll keep on the lookout for it as well," Mo Chang said. "Okay. What about the others, do you have those?" Yi Shu asked. "I got them. You can come over and grab them." "Damn, I'm too afraid to even go out of the city with these precious materials. What if I were killed and lost them? That's 100,000 yuan right there. Even I want to hire a killer to kill myself, just to get these materials," Mo Chang said. "I got it. I'll come get it soon, but can you teleport somewhere close to where I am?" Yi Shu replied. "Sure. Where are you?" "I'll head over," Mo Chang said. In the heavenly domain, there were teleport portals between large cities. Otherwise, if gamers had to travel everywhere on foot in the vast lands of the heavenly domain, the Glory Game Company would have been bombed. In some level 55 bordering cities, there were as few people as the level 55 leveling area. Within the heavenly domain, except for a few level 55, 60, and 65 characters who were abandoned from the time when these levels were the level caps, most characters were level 70. Gamers were active mostly in the level 70 areas. The lower leveling areas were lonely, and the cities seemed desolate. Arriving at the agreed place, Yi Shu saw Mo Chang's character. Its name was Run Cockroach. The class of the character had a dirty style, it was a thief. Seeing Yi Shu's Lord Grim arrive, Mo Chang clicked his tongue in wonder at his mix and matched equipment. He then traded every material he had bought. "How are you going to get your hands on the aquamarine?" Mo Chang asked. "I'll go back to the normal server and ask around, see if I can steal a boss," Yi Shu said. He used the word steal. In Glory, it was almost impossible to kill a map boss in Harmony. "Oh, the new server. Your level shouldn't be too disgusting there, right?" Mo Chang said. "Yes, but at your level, that would really be disgusting," Yi Shu said. "Ha ha 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 ha, with this level, I couldn't do it even I hacked the system," Mo Chang laughed. "Well, I've got to go. I'll talk to you if I need anything," Yi Shu said. "Okay, come find me when you have big deals," Mo Chang said. Of course, of course." Yi Shu sent Mo Chang's Run Cockroach away and saved the materials he had received. Even though the rare materials weren't complete, it could upgrade some forms of the Thousand Chance Umbrella, but because he was in the heavenly domain, if he were to upgrade the Thousand Chance Umbrella now, according to the irreversible rule, the Thousand Chance Umbrella would not be able to return to the 10th server. Therefore Yi Shu didn't do it at the moment. He notified Chen Guo and teleported Lord Grim back to the 10th server. The 10th server. A normal system notification showed up. It would be common for anyone, but the 10th server exploded in an instant. F***CK, Lord Grim. Why is he back? Numerous guild leaders received this notification because they all had this top expert as a friend. The expert had gone to the heavenly domain, and none of them had deleted him. It was nice to keep him as a distant memory. In the end, it worked in an unexpected way. Last time Lord Grim had returned, everyone was melancholy. They saw him break a few records and then leave. What did he want this time? The 10th server hadn't seen Lord Grimm for a long time. The guilds were finally developing in their expected direction. They had dungeon records under control. Players gradually realized the strength of the big guilds. Happy was popular in the beginning, but with Lord Grimm gone, there were no new records to excite the player, so right now it was out of the big guild's line of sight. But now, Lord Grimm returned. Did he want to break more records and leave? The 10th servers were finally forgetting about him. Why did he have to return at such times? Was it planned? The core members of the big guilds were coughing blood after they learned of this news. They really wanted to throw a protest in the streets. Chapter 522, Managing the Guild Storage. Despite having added Lord Grimm as a friend, the only guild leader who dared to talk to him at this time was Blue River. "What are you doing back here again?" said Blue River, emphasizing the again. With Lord Grimm gone, his workload had been reduced by a lot. Competition with the other guilds was something he was used to no matter the situation, but against this god, he repeatedly suffered setback after setback to the point where he would cough up blood in helplessness. In Blue River's opinion, against such an opponent, if he could hide, it would be better to hide. This was a thought he had even before the guilds had allied together against Lord Grimm. "I'm here for a boss," Yishu replied. "Which boss?" Blue River asked. "Crystal Knight. That's the name, right? The one that drops aquamarine," Yishu said. "What are you going to kill him for?" Blue River continued to be astonished. "Didn't I already say it?" Yishu said. "You want an aquamarine?" "Yeah, does your guild have any of it?" "No," Blue River replied bluntly. "How many times have you guys hunted for the Crystal Knight? Which guilds have killed it?" asked Yishu. Quote. "Why aren't you speaking?" "I'm not your spy," Blue River replied. "You've already told me about your guild's situation. I'm asking about the other guilds," Yishu said. "Of course I wouldn't know about the other guilds," Blue River replied. "Ha ha," Yishu laughed. Blue River was depressed, but when he thought about it, the lies that he came up with could only fool noobs. Even if his side hadn't killed the boss, he should at least know something as simple as which other guilds had killed it, no? "The Crystal Knight has been killed 3 times so far by Tyrannical Ambition, Herb Garden, an excellent dynasty," Blue River said. "How could your guild be so weak?" Yishu commented. Blue River kept quiet. "Our guild killed most of the other bosses. Do you think I would tell you that?" Blue River thought. "Have you helped manage Happy recently?" Yishu asked. Once in a while, Blue River felt embarrassed talking about this. The guild leader ran over to the heavenly domain, but he was still managing Happy quite meticulously. But speaking of this opened up a new world for Blue River as a spy. He felt like spies didn't necessarily have to sell out information. They could also work on improving relationships between two sides and prosper together. This was also a good way of developing his guild. "How is Happy doing?" asked Yishu. The question made Blue River feel somewhat confused. The leader of the guild was asking the spy how the guild was doing. What the F***ck was this? Blue River really wanted to remind the other side that he was a spy. However, the phrase, "I'm a spy," wasn't something he should be saying, yet it now turned into a phrase he could casually throw out. Blue River really didn't have the courage to say it. "The guild is quite stable and it's growing quite well," Blue River said. "It's about time to establish the storage system for the guild, no?" Yishu replied. Blue River was surprised again. "Don't tell me that you thought that I wouldn't know about that," Yishu asked. Blue River remained silent. He wouldn't dare to think that the god would not know such things. It was just that a person of importance often forgot many things and he hoped that he wouldn't have remembered this. "If we don't set up the storage system, the guild will disperse sooner or later, don't you think?" Yishu asked. "Yes," Blue River replied reluctantly. "Hey, does your storage house have any excess equipment? How lending us a few?" Yishu continued. "No," Blue River rejected it firmly. "Stingy," Yishu replied. "Go figure it out on your own," Blue River replied. At this stage of development for a guild, the guild storage system was very important. It directly affected the continuity of the guild's growth. For Happy, it was no longer a matter of growth, but rather, it was a matter of its survival. This guild was always a thorn in the side to the other club guilds. Using the guild storage system was a method that would allow them to eliminate happy without bloodshed. A guild storage system was a system that helped to maintain the stability of a guild as well as something that could show its strength. A guild storage has a much higher capacity than a personal storage, and its capacity would increase along with the guild's level. In a guild, the guild leader possessed the highest authority over the guild storage, which meant that a guild storage was no different from the guild leader's personal storage. But just having a large storage was nothing to be impressed by. The core of the guild storage system were the items stored inside. How to allocate these items was the most important part of the guild storage system. Currently, all of the big guilds had different ways of setting up the guild storage, but the theory behind them were all quite similar. Each guild stored a lot of equipment and materials in their storages. The guild leader had absolute authority over the distribution, which meant that they could be considered the guild leader's personal property. These equipments weren't just for show. They were to be used by guild members. However, each guild managed the distribution of their stored equipment with their own sets of rules. This is the so-called guild storage system. Usually, guilds gave each equipment a certain requirement for guild contribution points. When guild members reached a corresponding level, they could freely use equipments within that level. However, these items didn't belong to the players. They only had the right to use them. The guild leader reserved the right to recall any equipment to the guild storage. This condition was only exempted if the guild leader officially gave a certain equipment to a certain player. The equipment would become his or her property if this condition was met. If equipment was lost or damaged by a guild member, they would usually be punished by a deduction to their guild contribution points. Guild contribution points would also be deducted by the usage of consumables such as potions and materials. In a sense, guild contribution points could be said to be a form of currency. How could guild contribution points be earned? Each guild had their own way, but the guild leader also held unlimited power over this. The guild leader could give a guild member unlimited guild contribution points and could also deduct the guild contribution points of any member. With this, a guild leader would no longer simply be a servant for the guild members. A guild leader with rights to distribute benefits to the members was a guild leader that could command respect. But this depended heavily on a guild leader's ability. Guild leaders who handed out rewards and punishments based on impulse wouldn't win the hearts of the masses, and a guild like this wouldn't last long. A guild could only maintain a healthy growth with a complete system that had a clear guideline regarding rewards and punishments. The club guilds had an advantage in this matter. They could use their immense wealth to build up their storage. For a normal player, to achieve such a large scale with only his or her own effort would be extremely hard. The starting equipment in the storage couldn't be bad. It had to be rare items that could make people drool, and that would be the drive for guild members to grind for guild contribution points to get the equipment. To obtain guild contribution points, they could hand in materials and equipment to the guild. With this, the wealth of the guild storage would increase. The more items and materials owned by the guild, the more player-dependent it became. Benefits seeable with their own eyes were the main reason why players were willing to stay in a guild. Lulon/'s ability to form heavenly justice, a guild with a scale as grand as the club guilds, was closely related to his status as a money warrior. Money warriors enjoyed the same advantage as club guilds in the early stages of developing a guild. They could pour money in, helping them build up a wealthy guild storage. Despite not having the charisma of club guilds in terms of attracting fans, they could still depend on their wealth to attract players. Happy at its current stage could only be considered an ordinary guild. Its rapid growth in the 10th server was mainly due to Lord Grimm breaking dungeon records. The players in the new server were noobs who had no knowledge of the guild storage system. Once they learned about it, would their expectations and admiration towards the expert that they idolized be able to stand against the temptation of good equipment? Players in the 10th server were already nearing the level 60 stage. At this point, club guilds were already creating their own guild storage systems. They didn't do so in the early stages as players leveled up too quickly. Equipments that were low-leveled were meaningless even though they had very good quality. At this rate, players that finally had enough points to earn the rights to use the equipment would find themselves no longer in need of the equipments as their levels far exceeded the level of said equipment. A lot of dungeons were available once players reached level 50, which meant that players could level up more quickly. This greatly diminished the worth of level 50 equipment. People were more tempted by the allure of equipment that were level 55 and above. Core members of the big guilds that were rushing for the level 60 stage were starting to be more conscious of the guild's storage. The rare orange equipments that they came across would no longer be made personal property, and they would donate all of them to the guild storage. The equipment that was still rare on the market at this stage became the core of the guild storage. Next, obtaining and assigning different contribution points to purple, blue, and items of other grades would cause guild members to realize the difference between having a high amount contribution points and having little to no contribution points. If Happy didn't implement such a system, they would never be able to contend with the club guilds. The sheer temptation of such benefits would be enough to cause Happy to fall. Towards Happy, these club guilds definitely wouldn't give up the change to topple it. Deep down, Blue River hoped that Yi Shu would forget about it, as he was quite expectant of making Happy disintegrate without the use of force. In his eyes, Happy was a strong competitor. Chapter 523, True Goal. Lord Grimm returned to the 10th server. From a competitor's perspective, only Blue River came to poke around. After Blue River finished his prying, he was now stuck in a dilemma. The other side had said that he was there to steal the Aquamarine Knight, but he had said so in such a straightforward fashion. Was what he was saying true or false? If it was true, would he want the equipment? If it was false, then what on earth was he planning to do? Blue Rain felt very stupid. Why did he even ask this? In reality, he had just blurted out what was on his mind. He hadn't thought the other side would directly answer him. As a result, he now wondered whether Lord Grimm was telling the truth or not. Putting these conflicts as competitors aside, the main subject would be Guild Happy's welcome back party. The guild leader had gone to the Heavenly Domain. After understanding the concept of the Heavenly Domain, the players of Happy Guild all felt proud. However, after feeling proud for a short period of time, they slowly came to realize something. Frankly speaking, it was only the guild leader's personal glory that boosted the guild. In terms of themselves, what benefits did they receive? None, absolutely none. Apart from having no benefits, there were even disadvantages. After Lord Grimm entered the Heavenly Domain, he had only returned once. After not returning for a long time, many of the records in the 10th server were taken out by the other guilds. Guild Happy completely lost their imposing manner from before and now looked as if it would gradually decline until it became an average guild. The will of the members finally began to waver, but not much yet. This was because in comparison to a normal guild, Happy was still quite incredible. However, compared to the surging strength of the club guilds, they couldn't help but feel jealous. Those who had joined Happy admired Lord Grimm's fame and power. They had thrown themselves under this expert hoping to bask in his glory. Their current situation and the situation they imagined proved to be very different though. Suddenly, their guild leader had returned. Quite a few immediately surrounded him in excitement. Last time Lord Grimm had returned, he swept through several records and raised their guild's fame to even greater heights. What would he do this time? Happy's players hoped to participate. Guild leader, you've returned. Guild leader, what are you planning to do this time? Guild leader, are you going to challenge more records? Yi Shu laughed heartily towards their excitement. He didn't hide his intentions and said, I've come back to do great things. Why else, other than to create a stir, did the players of Guild Happy join the guild? The players who found joy in their own way wouldn't rely on someone else's power to get things done. As a result, when the guild members heard that they would be doing great things, many of them enthusiastically asked to join. Guild leader, what great things? We'll do it with you. We're going to steal a boss, Yi Shu replied. Wow, everyone was in admiration. Their guild leader was indeed extraordinary. Boss stealing was a phrase specifically for stealing wild bosses. Normally, a guild wouldn't gather for a random elite or rare boss. However, wild bosses would appear on TV every time they were killed. Until now, regardless of which wild boss was killed, it had almost always been one of the big guilds that were broadcast on the TV. Now, Guild Happy would finally be able to fight for a chance to get their spot in the limelight. I'll go, none of them bothered to ask which boss they would be stealing. All of them signed up excitedly. Everyone will be allowed to go, Yi Shu replied, which made the whole guild bubble with excitement. Many players with lower levels were worried that they wouldn't be allowed the chance to participate in such an important task, but it turned out that everyone could go. It was as if they had received an amazing prize. Which boss are we going to steal? Only now did someone ask, eager to fight. Aquamarine Knight, a level 50 boss. Do you know of it? Yishu asked. Not really, many of the people replied. The majority of them had only heard of wild bosses from different online databases. However, these bosses were monopolized by the club guilds. Those who don't know about it, go search it up and do a little bit of research. Those who know about it, go to the Western Desert to level up. Spread out. Message me immediately if you discover anything, Yishu spoke. Understood, many members replied with passion. The guild leader hadn't even been back for 5 minutes, yet he was already working hard. This type of leading was very refreshing. Players of Happy Guild set off towards the Western Desert. Even the players, who needed to do some research on the boss, also moved out. They were only doing some light reading, so they could easily multitask. At the same time, every guild leader from the club guilds received a message. What? He plans on stealing the Aquamarine Knight? Cold Night, Plantago Seed, Lonely Drink, Backlight Bomb, Hazy Mist, they all received this information only slightly after Blue River did. Moreover, the information came too easily. It came straight from Happy's guild chat. Only a blind spy would miss it. None of the guilds were willing to challenge Lord Grimm alone. Thus, Cold Night contacted Plantago Seed contacted Lonely Drink contacted Backlight Bomb, and so on until another 10th server guild leader discussion group sprouted up again. The discussion was once again raising the same old issue, what to do with Lord Grimm. Lord Grimm was going to steal the Aquamarine Knight. Oh, you have spies, right? The discussion group started off with this line, making everyone stare at the screen in thought. Every time they had fought against Lord Grimm, there would always be a moment of silence. Isn't this an issue? The information had been unearthed way too easily. It made everyone feel a bit puzzled. Plantago Seed raised the issue and then waited for everyone else to analyze it. I've never heard of anyone starting an operation in the guild chat, Hazy Mist said. And there's no way he doesn't know we have spies in his guild. No, Cold Night said. It must have been intentional, someone else agreed with this point. It was definitely intentional, but why? Blue River asked. To make a declaration for the east and strike west? Cross the river way? Perhaps he wants us to believe his goal is the Aquamarine Knight by sending a majority of his forces to the Western Desert, but his real goal might in fact be elsewhere. That's certainly a possibility. Then what is his true objective? Wait a second. What if his objective truly is the Aquamarine Knight and he's making us believe it's a misdirection in order to split our forces? Someone else pointed out. Then why would he even say anything in the first place? Another person said, our forces are split in the first place. Who would spend an entire day watching a single boss? True, Cold Night expressed his agreement. So it misdirection? Plantago Seed said. His guild has already begun to move, Hazy Mist said, everyone. How? Everyone was a bit dumbstruck. When they fought against a boss, they always sent their elite and core teams. They rarely mobilized their entire guild. This was because they knew there would be competition for every boss. If every fight became a world war, everyone's strength would be greatly damaged, especially in a server that hadn't stabilized yet. No one dared to act rashly, which was why everyone micromanaged the strength that they used carefully. After all, these weren't necessary items. This was a normal server. The extremely rare items of the normal servers and the extremely rare items of the heavenly domain weren't on the same level. The main reason was because there were 10 normal servers, but only one heavenly domain. But now, Happy wasn't following the tacit agreement made between the clubs. He had dispatched his entire guild, making the club guilds unsure what to do. If they dispatched their elite teams as usual, they would be wiped out simply due to the other side having superior numbers. F***CK, we should also send everyone and completely turn Guild Happy over, Lonely Drink shouted. Wait a second, a thought suddenly appeared in Cold Night's head, what if this is his real objective? Because he knows how we do things. What if he's intentionally dispatching his guild to lure our elites away in order to do something else? That's extremely likely. If his real objective is somewhere far away, then by the time we receive the message, it will be too late to hurry back, Plantago Seed agreed. You guys wait a moment. This is a wild boss. It doesn't spawn at a specific time. If he uses the Aquamarine Knight as a distraction, what if the Aquamarine Knight spawns, but his real objective doesn't? Wouldn't he have done everything for nothing? Hazy Mist argued. No. He probably isn't thinking like this. He's gathering his forces at the Western Desert, so we have to send our forces to resist. If that's truly the case, then as long as his true objective spawns earlier than the Aquamarine Knight, then his scheme will succeed. If the Aquamarine Knight really does spawn first, then he can just switch bosses and try again. It's a 50-50 chance. No one knows which boss will spawn first, so he can't completely grasp it. No, Cold Knight was quite detailed. Which wild boss still spawn this week? Do you think we'll be able to find anything by thinking like this? Backlight Bomb suddenly spoke. The top guilds could easily acquire this information. Soon afterwards, they looked at the map and looked for a leveling area far away from the Western Desert. Wait, Plantago Seed suddenly said, I just received information from my side. I don't know if any of you have noticed. What? Someone immediately asked. If Lord Grimm is misdirecting us, he must have his main force at his true objective, so I specially had my people pay attention to the movements of a few of these characters, and my people have just noticed something. Plantago Seed discovered important information and told them of it. Are you saying your people have been paying attention to Soft Mist's and Steamed Bun Invasion's movements? Cold Knight immediately reacted. It seems like you've been doing the same, Plantago Seed said. Where are they heading towards? Cold Knight asked. I don't know right now, but they're definitely not heading towards the Western Desert. I'll have my people continue following them, Plantago Seed said. Chapter 524, Complete Chaos. The discussion group entered a period of silence once more. Everyone was anxiously waiting for a final detailed report. At the same time, they sent several players to pay attention to the movements of Lord Grimm, as well as the few capable subordinates he had under him. These capable subordinates had been exposed cleanly already, and the big guilds saw their names everywhere. The scouting went smoothly. Soon, all of the guild leaders in the discussion group sent out expressions of delight. They looked as if they had schemes prepared. It seems like everyone knows, Plantago Seed, who had gained this intelligence a while ago, spoke. All Martian, Cold Knight said. Correct, the Setting Sun Hunter, so this is his target, Lonely Drink said. It looks like we can present him with a little surprise, Plantago Seed smiled. This time, we've got to kill his spirit. Yes, not only do we need to steal away the boss, but we're going to have him experience a complete wipeout. The guilds began their preparations in excitement. They didn't dare to be negligent of Lord Grimm's elite team, so they dispatched all their elites. How many people would be enough? They had failed so many times that they could no longer estimate properly. It wasn't like they could go wrong with having too many. When does the Setting Sun Hunter spawn? I'm looking forward to it. These guys were already imagining the beautiful scene in front of them. Getting Lord Grimm to eat sh*t would be such an amazing feeling. If his true target really is only the Aquamarine Knight, then what? Seeing everyone's appearances, Blue River couldn't help but feel uneasy. That's true. Cold Knight, who had crossed paths with Yishu many times before, also had a premonition. We'll go elites against elites, a sea of people against a sea of people. We should also send some people over to Western Desert. It's only one guild, after all. They don't have that many people, so if each of us send a few people, it should be enough. There aren't any strong characters there anyways. If we have the same number of troops as them, we hold the advantage. Right. This way we won't have any holes, Lonely Drink praised. Western Desert, level 50 leveling area. In the 10th server, level 50 to 55 was the prevalent level range. The players in club guilds, whether they were normal members or elites, weren't in this range, they were at the top in terms of leveling speed. A large majority of them were already above level 55, with the elites having already reached level 60. As a result, the arrival of an army of high-leveled players suddenly appearing in Western Desert quickly attracted the attention of many. Everyone in the army had tags from top guilds beside their name. Any player with a bit of keenness could tell that something was about to happen. These high-leveled players had already received their orders from their respective guilds. They were to scatter across the Western Desert, look out for the spawning of the wild boss, and pay attention to the movements of Guild Happy's players. On the other end of the map, the situation was exactly the same for all Martian spawn, just with more people. The waiting continued, but the boss never spawned. The club guild players were already getting impatient, but they couldn't act irrationally, especially in a leveling area with so many people watching. The wind sweeping through the tower heralds a rising storm in the mountains. However, this wind was taking a bit too long. Moreover, the spawn time for a boss was far less accurate than a weather report. The club guild players quickly began to grow restless. In comparison, the guild happy players were extremely busy because they weren't high-leveled players. The Western Desert was a very suitable leveling place for them, so they could kill monsters while wandering around. The morning passed. The eyes of the guild leaders had already turned red from staring at their computers for so long. There was nothing they could have done. All of them were nighttime workers and usually slept in the morning. Who would have thought that the Devil Lord Grimm returning would force them to work overtime and struggle through the afternoon? They were completely exhausted. Seeing that the boss still hadn't spawned, the guild leaders told the others that they were going to rest and to wake them up if anything happened. At 3:07 p.m., the guild leaders were brutally awoken from their deep sleep. Then suddenly awoken guild leaders immediately asked what the situation was, while struggling towards their computers. Before reaching their computers, they already learned the news: the Aquamarine Knight had spawned. What are Happy's players doing? The guild leaders practically asked at the same time. There doesn't seem to be any movements from them yet, their subordinates reported. Ha 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 ha, as expected. Quote, the guild leaders were delighted and they immediately went to discuss it in the discussion group, but not long after, they came across a very contradictory issue. Shouldn't they try and steal the Aquamarine Knight from each other? However, they had invested a bit too many troops into this operation, so they couldn't act blindly without thinking. According to the report, a randomly put together team was currently fighting the Aquamarine Knight and was getting absolutely decimated. A wild boss couldn't be taken down by some random team, let alone randoms from the leveling area. As a result, none of the guild leaders were shaken by this. Their main opponents were the ones participating in the discussion group. Cough cough. There's quite a lot of people over there. If everyone starts attacking at the same time, it'll be messy, Plantago Seed spoke. Afterwards, no one gave a response. Plantago Seed saw this and knew these B***stards had already come up with an evil scheme. None of them were going to talk about it. Thus, the discussion group immediately fell into silence. The guild leaders went to contact their people in the Western Desert to further understand the situation. 13 guild leaders, each with at least 100 troops, gathered together at the Western Desert. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry weren't far from them. The enemy boss had just killed off another random team. Another group of players took their place. The 13 guilds didn't bat an eye towards them and only paid attention to their real opponents. This deadlock couldn't last forever. They couldn't just stand there staring at each other for the entire weekend. The first side to move might not necessarily lose because no one knew each other's cards or plans. Every side had to adapt to the situation every time a battle for a boss took place. Strength, strategy, luck. Any one of these could determine the result. At the Western Desert, the small-scale conflicts gradually began to spread out. Soon after, even those who wished to join the fray until all others were exhausted first were wrapped into the chaos. Killing a boss entailed killing each other. One moment, two sides might be attacking and defending together. The next moment, the two sides might be at each other's throats. The boss's health went down as more players fell. As for those random teams, the smart ones had already fled. The dirty ones remained as scrap pickers. However, the scrap-picking business wasn't as developed in normal servers because the drop rate couldn't even compare to the heavenly domain. Amidst this chaos, the guild leaders suddenly received an intelligence report from spies. Lord Grimm had ordered his guild to set out for the Aquamarine Knight. What? At this time, everyone stared in astonishment. The Mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the Oriole behind? Guild-happy players saw Lord Grimm's message and began converging towards the spawn location. Outside of the chaotic battle, players with the guild-happy tag on top of their heads began to appear. 1, 2, 10, 20, 100, 200. They weren't high-leveled. Some weren't even level 50 yet. They couldn't compare to the players from the big guilds. However, they had more players on their side and happened to appear just when the 13 guilds were fighting amongst each other. Stop, 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 stop over there. Don't give Lord Grimm easy pickings, someone in the discussion group immediately shouted. Could this guy's real target actually be the Aquamarine Knight? F***CK, get all Martians people to hurry over. They won't make it in time. And what if this is just a trick of his? They were all pulling their hairs out in conflict. However, at least they understood one thing. If this chaotic battle continued, Guild Happy might become the Oriole. We're stealing a boss anyways. There's no need to be nice. Let's just all kill the players from Happy first, someone suggested. It looks like that's our only choice. Everyone unanimously agreed and made the command. In the blink of an eye, the 13 guilds went from fighting each other to standing shoulder to shoulder with each other. They turned to look at Happy and suddenly charged at them. Run! At this moment, an order came out from Happy. Happy's players suddenly turned tail and ran. The big guild players were still far away and wouldn't be able to attack them yet. F***CK, what is this sh**t? The guilds were pulling their hair out. In this moment of confusion, the Aquamarine Knight suddenly led his cavalry towards an aggroed target. The target wouldn't just stand there and do nothing. He hastily attacked back. The other guilds saw this. Not good. If this continued, the Aquamarine Knight would be killed by him. Thus, they immediately went to stop him. With the guilds fighting amongst each other again, Guild Happy's players charged back in. Guild Happy didn't try to conceal their actions either. Lord Grimm even gave this order in the public chat, so the guild leaders received the message at the same time too. What should they do this time? Should they turn and attack? If they attacked and the other side ran, then boss would attack and nothing would change. Split our troops into two, someone suggested. Right, everyone nodded their heads. If they sent half of their troops to chase after Happy's players and had half their players continue to attack the boss, wouldn't that work? The order came out. Half of the troops from each guild chased after Happy's players. Happy's players ran away again, but this time the pursuit didn't stop. The big guild players continued to chase them. Even if they couldn't kill them, they could at least push them far away. Not long afterwards, Happy's players were pushed to one area. The guild leaders received a message saying Lord Grimm had called for everyone to group together. Not good. If we chase them randomly, our troops will be scattered. The guild leaders suddenly realized the situation wasn't good. Don't chase them impatiently. Stay in formation. Don't scatter. The guild leaders immediately warned the pursuit team. A response from the pursuit team hadn't even come yet, when the boss team sent a message, "We can't hold on." What can't you hold on? The guild leaders were confused. Chapter 525, Can't hold the boss. You guys can't hold the boss? F***CK, who's holding the boss's aggro? You guys can't get the last hit in? After receiving the report, the guild leaders hastily asked in surprise. Simply speaking, the monster belonged to whomever the monster was aggroed on. The items dropped would be protected by the system for that player. For the next 30 seconds, no one else besides that player would be able to pick up the items during that time period. It all sounded very simple, but calculating aggro was actually quite complicated. Normally, the last hit counted for everything. It's worth several times more than a normal hit. This was easy to understand. After all, the last hit was the hit that took the other side's life. The other side would obviously have enmity towards the killer. Apart from this, the first hit was also very significant. The amount of aggro gained for the first hit depends on the situation. There was a difference in aggro between the first hit from a player who took the initiative to attack the monster and the first hit of a player counterattacking a monster's attack. In short, the general rules were very simple, but the details weren't simple at all. Especially against a boss. Bosses had names, background stories, and personalities. Each detail affected how the aggro would be calculated for each boss different. For example, if you took the last hit, some bosses would have 5 times the aggro for it, but other bosses might have 10 or 20 times the aggro for it. Some bosses had increased aggro after falling into a red blood state. Some bosses were very sensitive to the first hit. Thus, understanding the rules behind a boss's aggro was a very important part of stealing a boss. Usually, the last hit never disappointed, which was why all of the guild leaders asked their subordinates about it. When two teams accumulated similar amounts of aggro, the last hit would often be the deciding factor. However, the reply they received made them even more flabbergasted. No, it's not that we can't steal the boss. Then what is it? We can't hold the boss off. What? Whose scheme is this? This isn't a scheme. None of us can hold on. What type of stupid joke is this? You guys, at this moment, the guild leader suddenly stopped. He realized why this was happening at the same time. The discussion group exploded into a commotion. Clearly, the "can't hold on" wasn't pointing towards any one guild, but every single guild there. They actually couldn't hold the boss. Why? The guild leaders originally found it hard to believe. They were about to call it nonsense, but while typing their response halfway, they suddenly realized what had happened. Why? It was because the ones killing the boss were new. These players might be relatively high-leveled compared to the mainstream players, but they were still normal players. Usually, the core elites hunted wild bosses. These elites were from the heavenly domain with many years of glory experience and had a good understanding of the normal servers. They could clear dungeons and kill bosses. But these normal players, this was their first time doing it. The Aquamarine Knight had only been killed 3 times in the 10th server so far and had only been killed by the guild elites each time. How could these normal guild members have experience in killing these types of bosses? When trying to kill a boss for the first time, even if your team read a guide beforehand, wiping out several times wouldn't be strange at all. The reason why the club guilds could bring their normal guild members to levels higher than the norm wasn't because these guild members were crazy levelers. More importantly, the club guilds had experts and veterans watching over them. What did this entail? When an expert or a veteran led a party into a dungeon, there would be fewer casualties. As for 5 noobs, whenever a new dungeon became available, the noobs would die many times before clearing it once. In Glory, dying would result in a loss of experience. Dying would reduce your leveling speed, no? As a result, there would obviously be a difference in levels between club guild players and non-guild players. And now, these normal players, who had experts and veterans helping, finally encountered a snag. Against the Aquamarine Knight, an existence far stronger than a dungeon boss, these normal players had no way to hold on. In the beginning, the guilds had a lot of players. The chaos made it difficult for them to see the struggling players near the boss. Afterwards, half of their members went to chase after Guild Happy's people. When information arrived about Guild Happy grouping together and the guild leaders became worried that something had happened on that side, the ones who had been left to hold the boss were already defeated. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry had already summoned their war horses. They took formation and launched an assault. Their iron hooves lifted the yellow sand into the air, creating a huge cloud of dust in the western desert. The cavalry and the yellow sand blasted the players and enveloped them. The players had never seen this sort of scene before. Glory didn't have any mounts. The knight in the knight class only symbolized a type of ideal. It didn't indicate a soldier on a horse. The Aquamarine Knight and his entourage were a huge and menacing cavalry. Should they attack the horse or the person? If they attacked the horse, which part of the horse should they attack to have the greatest effect? If they attacked the person, what if their weapons weren't long enough? While the players pondered over these questions, the cavalry trampled them into the ground. The unlucky ones were even trampled on a few times. Those cut down by the knights on the horses took heavy damage. The ones that were charged down several times turned into corpses on the spot. A few veterans led the teams, but they couldn't control the situation. Helpless, they asked their guild leaders for help, while hastily transferring the ones in pursuit of Guild Happy over to their side. When the troops in pursuit heard their call for help, they were also confused. They had a hard time understanding why the other troops were being cut down by the boss, but when they went back to see, all of them froze. What was this? What were they supposed to do? How do we hit the ones on top of the horses? It doesn't look like hitting the horses did anything. Ah, I fell. Ah, the horse stepped on me. Ah, where did that sword come from? Ah, I'm dead. Corpses everywhere described the battlefield well. How strong was a wild boss? Against cloth-armored character, some skills could even one-shot them. The Aquamarine Knight's cavalry might not be as strong as the boss, but they were still comparable to elite monsters. Their strikes were enough to deal heavy damage to any player. The discussion group transformed into chaos because they clearly knew about the Aquamarine Knight's strength. When they took a closer look, the dispatched troops weren't enough to deal with him. No matter how numerous the troops, without an effective strategy, the troops would only be cannon fodder in front of a wild boss. The boss could easily wipe them all out. It was too late to ask for help. The rest of the guild had gone to Almartian. The guild leaders looked on with deathly pale expressions. They realized what Lord Grimm had done. Lord Grim had lured away the elites with his elites and left everyone else to take care of this boss. Their sea of people wasn't enough to defeat the boss though. What about Happy? If our people can't do it, how could Happy possibly do it? Someone asked in puzzlement. Another person immediately answered back, it's different. How is it different? The commander is different. Everyone fell silent. Commander. It was truly different. Lord Grim was at the top in all of glory, and their side? It would be too embarrassing to even make a comparison. At the Western Desert, players from the 13 guilds ran around the map in chaos. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry continued to chase and kill the remaining stragglers. Whoever they pursued, died. After all, the enemies had horses. At this moment, Guild Happy had already gathered together and climbed up a sand dune. The troops were lined up neatly and organized. They appeared from behind, welcoming the club guild players running for their lives. These players saw the towering troops and were so frightened that they didn't know which way to run. In an instant, the Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry wiped them out completely. The Aquamarine Knight's aggro had already gone into disorder. It was now taking the initiative to attack instead of retaliating against enemy attacks. The Aquamarine Knight saw more targets in his line of sight and charged towards them without hesitation. The yellow sand billowed under the cavalry's hooves. The cavalry moved like the wind towards Happy's players. The sounds of horses pounding against the sand were only sound effects and didn't do any damage. Mages, Yi Shu ordered in the guild chat. Because he was commanding the entire guild, he spoke in the guild chat. When he yelled, mages, all of the mages lifted their staffs into the air. The gems on their staffs glinted in the sunlight. Ice wall. Yi Shu gave an order. All of the mages immediately began casting the spell. Magic waves rippled and in an instant, nearly 100 ice walls shot out of the ground like a mountain range, blocking the Aquamarine Knights and his cavalry's assault. Bang! An enormous sound reverberated into the air. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry didn't waver in front of the ice walls and continued their charge. Bang 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 bang. Ice walls shattered one after the other. Thieves, advance, Yi Shu gave another order. 20 or 30 thieves began to hide themselves within the cracks between the ice walls.